This section heading is called SSH. So now what we're going to do within this section is we're going to look to make SSH essentially non-interactive. So if we take a look at our topology, what we're going to find is that the name node resides on the master host. So your name node is your manager of HDFS, and the way that it's essentially going to automate the task of managing the cluster is it's going to use a bunch of scripts that come with our Hadoop installation. So some of these scripts will communicate via SSH, and what we're looking to do in this section is we're looking to make that process of using those scripts essentially non-interactive, meaning that we don't want to have to enter a password each and every time we communicate with one of these hosts, and also we don't want to have to verify the identity of each of the SSH servers that we're connecting to. Remember, when we execute the script, we are initiating the communication, and therefore we are the client. So now we've already seen how to set this up in sudo distributed mode, and in this section right here we're going to explore how to do this within our cluster. So the first component to doing this has already been done for us. So this first command here, what we're doing is reviewing some non-default settings with our SSH installation. So we're going to view two lines within an SSH config file. So they are lines 20 and 36, and then the non-default settings are configured inside of the SSH_config file. So now this bottom line right here, so this is actually that first component. So this right here disables host key checking so that we no longer have to verify the identity of the SSH servers that we're connecting to. This top one here has nothing to do with essentially making SSH non-interactive, but it's a non-default setting, so I wanted to show it. So what this one here is doing is it's ensuring that any host name that's been configured on the system can access the SSH installation. So now that's the first component that's already taken care of for us, but now the second component we're actually going to configure. So let's go back to our topology once again. Remember, I said that the master, where the name node is going to be the client. So it's going to initiate communication. Remember, it's going to execute some scripts that are going to communicate via SSH. So we've already verified that host key checking is disabled, so we will no longer have to verify the identity of the SSH servers that we're connecting to. However, there's another component, right? And that is entering the password. So if the client's key is stored on these servers within the cluster, if it's stored within their authorized keys file, then this master over here will no longer have to enter in a password when establishing an SSH session to them. So we're on the master, so we're on the client, and what we're going to do first here is we're going to cat that key. So we're going to cat tilde .ssh, and then it's id underscore rsa.pub. So we want the public key. So we are the SSH client, and here we have our key, and what we want to do is we want to verify that this key is going to be placed into the authorized keys file on each node within the cluster. Alright, so now to see how this whole process works, we're going to open up a new terminal, and what we're going to do is we're going to establish an SSH session with slave 1. So I'm going to type SSH to support at slave 1. So we'll walk through the whole process here. And now what we'll do is first is we will list the content within the .ssh directory. We do not see an authorized keys file. So now I'm going to come back to this back terminal over here. And the way that we're going to essentially create that file and put that key in it is we're going to use a command. We're going to say SSH copy ID, and we're going to copy this over to support at slave 1. We'll need to authenticate this action, and then we'll go back to this back terminal once again. We will list the content within that directory. We'll see the authorized keys file, and now we will cat the authorized keys file in order to verify that we see the SSH client's public key, which is our master. And here we can see that we do. Alright, so now we're just going to terminate the session and close the terminal. And now from this terminal over here, we're going to verify that we can establish an SSH session without having to interact with SSH. So we'll type SSH to support at slave 1, and we can see that we no longer have to interact. Alright, so now we'll type exit, and what we'll do next is we'll copy the keys over to the other two nodes within the cluster. So I'll hit the up arrow key here a couple times, So we're going to copy it over to slave 2, and then we're going to copy it over to snapshot. And that's it.